show 5 demonstrations of unbelief. What does unbelief, what does refusal look like that we do? Without naming names. First, when we allow our circumstances and our challenges to either strip away our faith or to dramatically lower our faith. When we take our baggage and say, God can't do this because of this baggage. I can't trust because of this. I can't because of whatever's going on in our lives. And this is an expression of selfishness and self-centeredness. And I fall for it, and you fall for it. And it's unbelief. It's refusal. And we need to just confess it, receive grace and mercy, and move on in victory in Jesus, my friends. God has overcome circumstances and challenges that are incomparable to what we're holding against the situation. He's done it before. He'll do it again. Number 2, lean on our own logic instead of thinking according to God's word. We rationalize, we explain, we justify. We get pretty good at doing those loops. I got into a discussion this week with a man. I was talking to him about Jesus. He's a lapsed LDS. We were talking about the gospel of Jesus Christ and forgiveness as a means of grace. It's just given to us from Jesus. There's no good works connected into it. And he couldn't get past the idea that in his logic, God was an alien. And he was quoting Neil deGrasse Tyson on how a 10th or 11th dimension being, an alien, from the 10th or 11th dimension, if he interacted with us, he would seem like God. Because he would see every action, every consequence on every timeline, and that's pretty much what we say is God. So God's not God, he's really an alien from another dimension. How do you talk to somebody about Jesus in the midst of that? He was wrapped around in his own logic because he really badly wanted to think that God was a transdimensional alien instead of what God's word says. That God existed before the universe, that God existed before space and time, that God existed before any of that dimension stuff. I couldn't get through to him. Because he was wrapped up in his own logic. And you know what? We do the same thing. Hopefully not about aliens and 10th dimensions, but about the same thing, right? We do the same thing. We get caught up in our own logic. Demonstrating unbelief. Demonstrating a refusal to accept God's word. Yeah. Number 3, not trusting at all. Not trusting in God's promises, in God's motives, in God's plans. We don't think he's in charge. We don't think God is interested in our problems and circumstances. Or at least that's how we behave. That's how we talk. That's how we worry. We worry, talk, and behave like everything is up to me. And if I don't address the problem, if I don't come up with my 5-step plan, a nice timeline to resolve everything, nobody's got my back. That's refusal to believe. That's unbelief. Regardless of how many of the 80 wars that are going on right now has you upset, or worldwide politics, whether it's Brazil or Haiti, whether it's Nigeria or Kenya, whether it's Ukraine or Russia or the United States or Utah, God is in charge. He's got this. He's in charge of history. We can trust him. For me personally, I struggle with this entire thing when it comes to timing. God and I are never on the same time. And I think I'm patient until I am not patient. And again, it's the Noah thing. Let's wrap this boat project up in 3 years. Instead of, it might be 100 years. Or, I can see how this plan of God is affecting me. Let's wrap this up quickly. And God is actually working generationally. So he's doing something in your life that is about you, but it's really having its fuller fruit in people not yet born. You got to keep going. You got to persevere in the project. You got to work the century because God is working on a generation that hasn't even been conceived yet. And brothers and sisters, you know how that frustrates me. And I got to confess, forsake, refusal, and unbelief, and realize God's got this. God's got this. Fourth example, demonstrations. Fourth demonstration. Anytime we make decisions based on fear, that's unbelief. That's a refusal to trust God. When our fears and anxieties dictate our actions, we are absolutely saying that God doesn't have this. Let me behave in such a way that it addresses my fears and anxieties because only I am looking out for this. Rather than seeing that God's got it all, my friends. He's over it all. And he meets us in the midst of our fears and anxieties. And yet we are a people that make decisions based on fears and anxieties. And fear, like my good friend Melissa said, fear is faith in the devil. Ouch. Which is why I remember she said it. Because that's like a double slap. That's like, walk into this, John. We're supposed to fear God and nothing else. Let's live like that. And then we'll be bold, courageous, and heroic. And the people around us that are afraid just won't understand our faith, my friends. All right, last one. Fifth ways of demonstrating unbelief is just out and out sin. Sin, evil, wickedness. Sin, evil, and wickedness of action and lifestyle. Sin, evil, and wickedness in the way that we speak. Sin, evil, and wickedness in the rebellious way we think. We are masters of evil and inexperienced with godliness. We are masters at unbelief and are in awe when somebody shows faith, belief, and trust. And it should be the other way around, my friends. It should be. 5 demonstrations of unbelief, which calls us all as guilty.